Well, I'm back to my sister's machine. So because it's taken me so long to do anything about that valve, she's run a couple more batches and just put a stopper, a rubber stopper in the hose. Otherwise it was failing to achieve vacuum. It was getting close, so the valve isn't totally trashed, or maybe it is, I don't know. But anyway, we're going to rip it apart. But first I want to do a quick test with the testing cycle, and we'll do the functional test with the vacuum. But I'm going to leave the rack in, and that could cause a little bit of a problem because there still could be water in there, and I wasn't going to do the freeze, and I really didn't want to rip the rack out right now. So I'm not sure exactly how it's going to go. So we're going to turn the valve off, run the vacuum, see what happens, and then put the stopper in the end of the hose and see what happens. So let's get that started. These are the stoppers that she got. She just went to a local store and found a couple of little stoppers. Let's see if that will focus on there. Boy, it's really hard to see when the stopper's in that spot. This is the ones that she got. The Hillman brand. It's a 9/16 by 3/8 stopper by 1 inch, I guess. I don't even know what all that means. I assume it's 9/16 in diameter on one end, 3/8 at the other end, and 1 inch tall. Anyway, it's just this little stopper, and it fits in the drain hose real nice. And it's pretty squishy, so it will squish right in there real nice and does a great seal. Got the drain valve turned off, and I'm not going to freeze it, and that could cause a little bit of a problem because it could sublimate some of the water that's in there, I suppose. So we're going to go ahead and run vacuum. And we'll watch the pressure. Got a ring around the seal, and so it's starting to widen out, which is what we'd expect as it starts to vacuum down. And actually, this probably won't ever make it. So the vacuum, it is not sealing. I can feel a vacuum right away. So it will, you can see that the vacuum's going down, but I'm going to guess it's not going to make it. Nope, as soon as I let go, it went back up some. Okay, so the valve is turned off, but it's not good enough to even function right now. So let's put the rubber stopper in. So I'm just kind of twisting it in, pushing the stopper in there. And then we'll see what happens. Oh, it's already starting to go back down. Well, that definitely tells us that the valve is very failed. So you can see it's going down nicely now. It is a little bit slower than I would really like it to be when it's empty, but I didn't take the rack out, and there's almost definitely water droplets, moisture still in the rack system itself, in the corrugated plastic piece that's on the top and bottom. And when the pressure starts to get low enough, that will start to boil off because it didn't freeze it. So really, to do this test, we either need to have the rack out and make sure everything is spotlessly dry, including the hose, or we need to freeze it first, which doesn't take care of the hose part, but make sure that it's dry and then freeze it, and that will keep that from sublimating off if you don't turn the heaters on. So now it's down to 835, 834, so it's still dropping. Everything's still going well, as long as there's no other leak somewhere. So we'll go ahead and stop this and get that valve taken off and see if we can clean it, lube it, or if it just needs to be replaced. So at first it seems like the valve is holding, but it's really not. It's only holding partial pressure. Let's get this untangled and we can get this off of there. I'm going to move the whole machine. I'll probably take the back off this thing too while we're looking at this. I can show you what we did with the drain hose to make sure that it didn't leave a drain trap, a trap in there for water. We added some foam and zip tied it to one of the supports so that it stays angled. We'll get this removed. And actually, with it out here, I don't have to even take that part, the hose off of there. I can just unwind it. Okay. And this has, you can see it has plenty of tape on it. We'll probably do something a little different when we put it back together. Oh, that looks terrible inside. Okay, let's get this to a workbench and see what we can do with this. So that's part of the seal area and whatever junk ended up in there. So then we'll get that cleaned out on both sides. Okay. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and tear this apart. I don't know if I need to take this part off first or take the core out. So let's find hopefully I can find the right size wrench for that. Wow, let's set that over. Find out what size that is. Okay, I should start with the fact that this is like a $10 valve. It may not be worth repairing, and this one, you can see inside that it's very corroded, but this is how you take it apart if you need to. With it turned off, well, probably doesn't matter yet, but I'm going to try to get this. Hopefully that's the right size. Okay. Okay. It looks like that might have been some of the sealer in there. That's this little threaded disc piece. I don't know if I've got that in the right spot. Okay, and that pushes the little washer piece into place. And you can see all the junk coming out of there already. It's just kind of messed up. And we've already bought a new one and installed it for my sisters. So then this piece, these pieces come out, and with the ball or the valve in this position, there's a slot in the top of the ball. And so on this type, it can be pushed out. And I think, so I've got this little wooden dowel piece.
Yeehaw!
Okay, and that starts pushing it out, and see if I can find something that fits that better. I'm using wood on that because if the ball were in good shape, you don't want to damage it by hitting it with a metal piece. So, okay, and it's this far out. Probably can get this side out now. Okay, that's the one seal piece. Then the ball. And then the other, there's another seal just like that on the other end of there. And it's so corroded, I don't think it care if we take it out or not. I can probably get that closer. I think as long as I stay in the middle area, it should be good. So again, there's that piece that gets screwed in. Gosh, that's not even centered well. Anyway, and then there's that nylon piece that is supposed to seal against here. And then there's the ball valve. So when it's closed, it would be in this position, and then you rotate it into this position. But you can see all the corrosion on there. And this is a steel ball, and then it's just chrome plated. That's not a good choice for this, apparently. I don't know if I can get that other piece out. Okay, oh, and then this. Then the handle portion. That unscrews. And then this piece, the actual stem, gets pushed in. And it falls into the body area and comes out. And so it has a couple of O-rings on it, and then a raised shaft area, a piece that lines up with the top of the ball like that, and that's what turns it. Kind of like a really short, flat screwdriver, and it just goes into that groove. And if this piece gets lifted up too much or there's too much pressure, it could spin this, and my sister's was doing that, so it's not a nice tight fit anymore anyway. But it would still work if you push it down inside the body, push it down and turn the knob, so if you're pushing, it would have still worked. There's just no point to it though, because of how much corrosion it has. See if we can bring this in close. There's the bottom side of it. There's the top side of it. So, and this piece is supposed to make a nice smooth seal on it, and you can see how much junk is on there. So if it didn't have this corrosion on there, I could clean all of this up and it would probably still work fine. So there's the open position, and then it just turns that way and closes it off. And of course it's doing it on both sides simultaneously. I think later I'll take mine apart and find out why is it still good after 6.5 years, and this one made it only 1.25 years or so, 1.5 years. I find that interesting. Anyway, so all of this could have been cleaned up if it didn't have the corrosion on that ball, but it's just not worth doing. And then of course you assemble it. The toughest part in reassembling is actually getting this piece back in, because you have to just drop it into there and then gently get it started in that hole and then push it down into there. I'm not going to bother putting it back together because it's junk now. I'm going to go ahead and take the back off so we can see what we did back there. There's a lot of screws on there. Huh. I should use the drill for this. That's a lot. Phew, a lot of screws in that thing. Okay, so this is how we took care of the drain hose. We put some foam padding that we slit so that it stays on there, and then it has a groove for the hose on the other side, and then we zip tied the stuffings out of it so that it can't make a loop down here like a plumbing trap. We want to make sure it always drained downward. So as far as leaks, I mean, there's really only a few places this whole system can leak. The front seal, of course, this fitting right here, and any portion of it. So that's this fitting, this hose, the valve, both sides of the valve, and the valve body itself. And then the other places that it can leak. So this is the vacuum, this is the tube where it gets vacuumed, and this one, the way they make them currently, it has a double bend in it, kind of like a S-bend, very short S-bend. So there's no fittings here, there's no threads or anything. There isn't on the other end either. It goes directly into the barrel. And then this is where all of the electronics goes through into the chamber. So really that's it. So 1, 2, 3, 3 places besides the front seal. It's just not that much. I think I mentioned on my original video about this that this is the sensor right there for the room temperature. Well, the location of it, so you're pulling the air through here to cool this, the condenser, the condenser, and so you're putting warm air into this space. And because it can't push it all out necessarily very fast, it swirls around the whole barrel and comes back around here. So this area right here is warmer than it is on the other side of this grill. So that's going to give you a higher temperature than your actual room temperature. And this is one place that you could potentially have a leak, is here and here. So this whole portion right here, because this is threaded onto there, and then that is supposed to have a piece that makes a good seal inside there, and then this crimp around the hose itself. So any portion of that, and that's another reason why we wanted to add this, is for kind of a strain relief, so that as we manipulate the end here, it doesn't end up pulling on that too much, because then you could have a leak here. But all of it's solvable. It's a matter of figuring out where the leak is, of course, and that's the hard part. Okay, well, we'll go find a valve.
Taxi!
Okay, that's where I'm headed with it. Add a couple more holes. These holes are to be for the zip ties. If I go inward, it might be easier to loop the back of the zip ties. So that's what I'm going to do. I have to assemble it all here before I put it down, because I won't be able to turn the pieces with that in the way. Okay, I can do that. Going to use a combination of Teflon tape and liquid tape. Now, I'll paint this on above that and then screw that on. That should give me a good airtight seal there. And once I attach this, it'll be real easy to change with one hand. And I can still unscrew it if we need to. All right, now get that one attached. Ooh, that's not gonna work out. And I think I might have to cut away part of that. I think I left it too long. So I need to cut a piece of that off. Some of us didn't plan that out very well.
There's a bandy on here.
First try. Now I can put that on there. There's enough space. Okay, once that's dried, I think it's ready to test. And it should be very easy to do. Try that out. Tell me how much you love it and why.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, you're used to just reaching back with both hands, aren't you? Yeah. But yeah.
Secure.
Yeah, it should be plenty secure to do the job. But yet it's flexible. I think it'll work out. And the hose will probably need to be cut down a bit, but it still gives plenty of
It's not like it's
option.
It's not even touching, so it's
No,
not.
not after I cut that off. I had this. I didn't even check that. It was too long. I had to cut that off. Otherwise, I couldn't put this on. And that will act as a strain relief on the other part in there.
Yeah.
So now, don't have to worry about this being pulled. And as I showed before, I've got this block zip tied onto here so that it can never leave a loop in the bottom that would have water in it. So it's sloped all the way down. The only other place that I could see that we could have a vacuum issue with this would be right here. And we could probably test that with that one spray stuff that Harvest Right suggested. But we'll check it. I mean, if it doesn't seem to have a problem, we could just ignore it for now. Because it wasn't having a problem before the valve was bad.
Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. But it would be interesting to see if we are getting any vacuum leak from here. And I'm not sure exactly how to test that without using the spray stuff or maybe water, soapy water or something. But it's going to be sucking into the chamber, so no matter what, we'd have to take the rack out so we'd be able to see back there. And then I still think that the only one that's going to work well would be that, I think it's carburetor cleaner. And I'm kind of loath to spray it on this stuff, even though that's what they used to check the epoxy plug thing. But that's it for that until it dries. So after changing the valve, I ran the test setup again. Go to the little leaf, functional testing. So I ran the functional testing with the freezer turned on and the rack out. Of course, if I have the rack out, I probably don't need the freezer on. But anyway, I had the freezer on and the rack out, and it went down nicely. It took about 3 minutes to get below 2500, and it was about 6 minutes at 500. And then I just let it keep running, and at 38 minutes it was down to 138, and still very slowly dropping, so everything looked good. So it's been off for about 2 hours now, and it's got a wide ring around the seal still, which means it's still holding vacuum quite nicely. So that's it for the valve change. Everything seems good. If we're lucky, we can have another leak some other time at another place to see if we can solve that. I think that liquid tape stuff would work real well on any of those leak areas. And if it's a very slow leak, you could paint that on that area while the vacuum is going. That way it would suck it into any of those little crevices around the threaded areas. And that should seal it quite nicely. And it says that it's good for extreme low temperatures and fairly high temperatures. So well within the specs of what this gets. I think it would work out well. Time will tell on it, of course. Anyway, we will move on from that.